So this is a new series about the invisible secrets of the sound of the guitar to go beyond the evident, let's say. And here I will quote this excellent demonstration by Maestro Dan Bourgeois, who will explain very interesting things here. Let's start.
So start out with a model, sort of a mechanical model of kind of what happens, sort of what's going on in a guitar. A guitar is a series of coupled oscillators, coupled vibrating things. Basically, you start out with strings vibrating. The strings will excite the top. The top vibrates, and it excites a column of air inside the guitar, which sets up sound pressure waves which strike your ear. So that's how you hear music. We'll break that down a little bit, and the string, a string is capable of vibrating in a variety of modes. You think of a string as you pluck a string and it does this kind of thing, but it's also it also divides in half, and then in thirds and fourths and fifths, and these are essentially called vibration modes, or later on we'll see how they translate to overtones. The important thing to understand is that the string vibrates in these various modes simultaneously. A string is a pure oscillator in the sense that it's capable of producing many modes at the same time. The string, you know, in space a camera can record very high number of vibrational modes. When you begin to connect it to a top, you're actually putting those modes through a filter, essentially. The top is capable of also vibrating in a variety of modes, but it depends on how you build it. And that's what we're going to get into. This is an illustration of a round plate that shows the various modes. The first, second, third, on and on there. I'm not going to get too much into the technical part of that. This is a guitar top, classical guitar top, an illustration of a top that shows that the top actually vibrates in those modes. Again, important to understand that the top will vibrate in whatever modes it can vibrate in, will vibrate in these modes simultaneously. So if you look at number A, the belly of the top is just going up and down. If you look at B, the belly is kind of doing this kind of thing side to side. Well, it's doing this kind of thing side to side while it's going up and down kind of thing. And then C, it dishes front to back. And all of these things are going on simultaneously. And of course,
this is incredible because, in fact, the top we were mentioning before in the previous video I made about the top, that all these facts of these bracings, how these bracings affect the sound, and why about NAG they made this liberated top concept, which consists in carving different forms and also holes inside these bars, which in other guitars are just a rough stick they're traversing, because the sound travels in waves, and this does modify the waves. Like for example in this central sound hole guitar, like Barbero or a Santos in AG, we have also this liberated top thing here. Look at this, for instance. We can see that this is a small hole, while this here is bigger and deeper, and this is the deepest to fall, as opposed to this, which is just larger and not so deep. So why? Because these things have to be calibrated very specifically according to every instrument, which has all different characteristics of sound, which are the aspects that one is after certain kind of model. And that's why this thing here is very relevant to get straight. So
this is a hologram image that's showing the vibrational modes. These can be shown various different ways. The hologram is actually heat sensitive, and motion gives off heat, friction. So the hologram is calibrated to like very small percentage of a degree Fahrenheit or Celsius or whatever, but it's very, very finely calibrated. You've probably seen hologram photos of a house in wintertime losing heat, through the windows and the doors and wherever. And so that would be, that would be calibrated to several degrees or whatever, tens of degrees. These are just a very fine fraction of a degree of heat given off. And here's another way of actually visualizing the way a top vibrates. This top was sprinkled with glitter. It was just little mylar, particles, and then blasted from above with the speaker cone.
So to quote here, I would like to show this thing about tuning the guitar with salt.
This is the way to determine exactly the resonance frequency of the top of the guitar.
И ако се налагат корекции на дебелини, акустичните зони.
Well, this is one of the ways, right?
Sometimes
very interesting thing.
maybe the luthier must make some corrections of the thickness of the top.
Това визуализира местата, по които трябва да работиш.
This is the method of visualization, how to see on the places where you have to work.
So if they sparse the salt through the vibration of that tone, then create certain patterns, and those are the areas that they have to sound more.
These things are made on the top of the guitar and also the back of the guitar.
Има други по-слаби резонансни частоти, които виждаме в момента.
There are some other not so strong resonance frequency that we see in a moment.
So you see, because it has all tones. Now the thing is that why, for instance, you get that tone with the tapping of the top. For instance, in my guitar, in this guitar specifically, we have a G sharp on the. We play G sharp and listen. So I got that tone there of G sharp. Therefore, all means all the harmonics which are related to that in the series, etc., will be strong points, and then therefore it is just not the same. That's why such an evolved top like this cannot be same just like anything. It's a luxury object, because here they took the time to measure all these details. So let's continue. Otherwise it will be out of tune what you play, or creating conflicting frequencies, which also Master Bourgeois will talk about in a moment.
And with a variable frequency, and you can see this is probably the first mode, or maybe this is the second mode. See, I'm not into the physics part of it so much, and I'll show you why a little bit later. I kind of boil it down to something much simpler than understanding the physics. But the point is, the note at which it vibrates at that particular pattern will tell you how the top is tuned. Not only does the string and the top and the air column vibrate, but when you glue the top to a body, you make a guitar body or a violin body, the whole body goes into a vibrational mode. And this was discovered by some violin researchers. A lot of this research has been done in the violin field first, back in the 50s. Hutchins and Saunders published a lot of this information. Saunders was a physicist at Harvard, and Hutchins was a high school physicist who built guitars, and they worked together, and they did a lot of experiments, and they figured out an awful lot of the mechanics of how violins work, and a lot of it is just directly transferable to guitars. But one of the things that they found out was that the first vibrational mode of a guitar or a violin is the top wrapping around the sides, wrapping around the front and the back, and then the back is wrapping around the sides, kind of like the skin of a baseball, and it's moving like this. And then the second vibrational mode is just moved 90 degrees, and they were not able to measure anything beyond that.
So here I would like to quote again Maestro Samoji to explain something about the relationship of the back with the sound, and how the Torres idea is just shattered in pieces by this experiment he will do here, which in fact translates into sound in musical instruments. And it's a fact that the back, it does reflect, the sound of the guitar is reflected from the back of the instrument. And that's why now in AD also they try different double back instrument, things like this, which makes also, this makes the guitar, of course, with a different density, and it's a weighter instrument. It has a double set of wood on the back, and because the sound is reflected from the top. to the back and then from the back out. So this is very important to understand here.
The device is a series of rubber bands and an iron weight on the bottom. The principles of physics that this can illustrate are that if this hand were to be the top and this rubber band the air mass and this mass the back, and usually the back is a heavier, denser, more massive wood than the face. So this example would be true to that. Now, the intelligent guitar maker will try to figure out how the top and the back will function in tandem, because it's the relationship of one to the other that will determine how successful an air pump you've made. We learned this experiment in high school physics, where if you have an arrangement like this, you could just, really drive the guitar top with a lot of energy, and it'll make very little difference to what the back is doing. It's mostly inert. But at the right frequency relationship, a rather small amount of drive from this end translates into considerable increase of efficiency in driving this member. This is what the guitar top and the guitar back do with each other. So it's incumbent on the maker to try to figure out what the resonance relationship of those plates ought to be to one another. Because if you miss it, then you'll get something that really wastes a lot of the energy. It's tricky. It takes years sometimes to zero in on that. But everybody who's serious about this will wind up going in this direction.
So this is very interesting. And of course, this also translates into a playability aspect, which is another innovation in AG, combining the fretboards, different material of the fretboards, and the neck, maple neck, which of course there is a reason why Stradivari used maple on the neck of his instruments, and in AG they are doing the same thing, as opposed to the obsolete and overworn cedar, because it's a cheaper thing. Who said the neck of the guitar has to be of cedar? So this is the narrow-mindedness these people have, and of course in AG they work in a revolutionary way, also implementing two different materials in the fretboard, which is also unique in the world, this thing. And it created the balance guitar. This is linked to the double back thing, because it's a more weighty guitar, so it produces a very powerful sound. And in playability, look what you can do. This is just a diagram showing how everything affects everything interactively. You see the strings go to the top, then this excites the back, then the back also affects the neck. The neck, it does affect the top, and it creates more energies on the air column, which at its time goes to the sides, and then it goes again to the top, then it goes again here. So this is all how it goes until the air pressure waves, which we will explain in a moment. Mr. Bourgeois will say what it is about those waves, and that's how you listen to music. But this is such a mystical thing which is going on, and this is invisible. We play guitar, but we miss many times these details which are invisible to the eye. You have to get beyond the evident, And of course, regarding weight of the instrument, what you get with this thing is that you can have a balanced guitar in weight. This is a balanced guitar, meaning that I don't need to be pushing here or holding with the left hand. It has a perfect balance to be played there. So now I am free here, you say I can move, and nothing happens, and it's almost totally horizontal. So check it out. Incredible feature.
Me ayudó porque descubrí ahí la improvisación. La improvisación es algo que yo pienso que cada músico del estilo que sea, del clásico, del flamenco, de cualquier otra música, debería aprender, porque en la improvisación te da mucha libertad y a la vez te da mucho conocimiento de dónde estás tocando, de cómo estás tocando, de qué armonías están en cada momento, ¿no?
Muy bien. Pablo. Sí, Paco, ¿qué es para usted la música popular y qué es la música elitista?
Yo creo que la música elitista es el refinamiento de la música popular. Por ejemplo, el flamenco. El flamenco originalmente es una música popular, la música del pueblo de Andalucía. Pero creo que ya no le pertenece más al pueblo, porque de pronto habemos gente que nos hemos pasado toda una vida encerrados, puliendo esa expresión popular. Entonces ha llegado a un nivel en el que el pueblo ya no tiene acceso, sobre todo a los matices que vamos consiguiendo la gente como yo, que nos pasamos muchas horas elaborando esa música.